Hello, welcome to another video. The PlayStation 5 Pro reviews are in, and I kind of want to talk about it because it feels crazy that it's been, I think, 2 months since I talked about the reveal of the PlayStation 5 Pro, and I was definitely part of the majority that was grabbing my pitchfork and saying, how the hell is this thing? Is it 700 US dollars? I'm not sure. I know Canadian it's 950. I just looked at Best Buy and was like, damn. But with the reviews being in and people actually getting their hands on it, seeing the upgrades, seeing if it's worth it and not, I can confidently say I feel very good about the position that I had then because it has not changed. I don't have a PlayStation 5 Pro. I'm not planning to really ever buy one. I think I'm going to get a PlayStation 5 because it just definitely seems like the better value, especially watching through certain reviews, seeing the gameplay differences through other channels and whatnot. I'm not going to be showing anything like that, but if you want to see like the actual nitty gritty behind it, definitely go and search it out on YouTube. You will find it. But with that being said, I did not know that there was an argument around the PlayStation 5 Pro of this is kind of more just for a PlayStation enthusiast, not for, general population type of thing. They don't want to, they're not marketing this type stuff to bring in a bunch of new people to PlayStation 5s. It's so that if you are a hardcore PlayStation fan, here's something that you can play PlayStation 5s at their very best. I think that's probably true. And seeing the recent stuff talking about the pre-orders for PlayStation 5 Pros being, close to PS4, better than PS4 Pros at the time, seeing that PlayStation is happy with everything that's happened with it and whatnot, I think they honestly have probably done what they wanted to do with this, and that it probably wasn't thought of as something that is going to be a giant commercial success like, a PlayStation 4 Pro probably was throughout its life cycle, where it seemed like that was a bigger jump in a lot of areas. Now, I want to quickly talk about the upgrades that it does have, as well as talk about kind of the future of gaming / PlayStation, because this kind of leaves it a little muddled. Now, the upgrades, the marketing behind this was basically there's usually a performance or a fidelity mode in a lot of games in this generation, and the hope and the marketing behind this was that it was going to get rid of that. You wouldn't have to worry about that. You played the game, you're getting 60 frames per second at the fidelity graphics. You're getting the 4K while you're also getting the 60 frames. And I'm pretty sure, seeing the reviews and everything, that is genuinely true. But developers, I don't know why. It's the dumbest thing I've seen watching any of the reviews. They decided to add specific options to increase the fidelity even more, but keep you at 30 frames. It blew my mind seeing it, hearing it. It just makes no sense to me whatsoever. Because I think a lot of gamers right now, if they really had the choice and if they are picking between that, I would say the vast majority are picking performance mode. 30 frames to 60 frames is something that I think the everyday gamer will notice relatively quickly. I think once you get over 60 frames is where it's a little more, everything, it feels smooth at 60, and it feeling just smoother and smoother almost gets to most people probably wouldn't notice 120 to 150 frame difference, unless you're playing it for hours on hours on hours every day, then maybe. While fidelity, I think we're currently at such a diminishing return with graphics that there is even now the idea of if you're picking performance mode, it's usually because the fidelity, the graphics don't look that bad that it's to the point you won't play the game. And I know now playing on PC that I will lower graphics for certain games just to make sure the frames can get bumped up as high as possible. And I would say majority of the time, it's a minimal notice of the graphics, and that the FPS is just so much worth it that I do not understand who this new setting is for. Pro fidelity, whatever they want to call it, setting. It seems redundant. It seems pointless. You will probably always have a better time just doing the, 60 frames, but having the good graphics. Not the perfect graphics at 30. It seems very weird. And with that being said, there is other trade-offs you can do when it comes to ray tracing. This still is a console. It's not as powerful as like PCs, high-end PCs, anything like that. So you can kind of bump up your ray tracing, and there is games that are, trying to, give that as an option, but it does, hurt your frames because of course it does. That's, there's always going to be some give and take still with the PlayStation 5 Pro, which does suck, but it still does make sense because even like you need a high-end PC to not have any of these issues. And there is a lot of games right off rip that do have updates to the gameplay and the graphics and the frame, stuff like that for the PlayStation 5 Pro, which is good. But I just think right now, the vast majority of games, playing it on a base PS5 in, let's say, performance mode, I don't think that right now it is worth it to upgrade to a Pro just so that you can play the same thing but with it to look slightly better. It seems like a very minuscule difference, and that this isn't really the upgrades that the console gaming kind of, world is looking for. I think going into the future, it's going to be a lot more heavy on performance rather than fidelity on, having the more powerful console. If you can run 120 frames at the, whatever fidelity now, people would probably rather gravitate towards that versus 30 at a super high fidelity, if that makes sense. Also, going over, I think the most big upgrade that everyday people would notice with a PlayStation 5 Pro is just simply the storage. It comes with 2 terabytes of, the high-speed SSD, which very helpful. It's like getting the little memory card for a PlayStation or a Xbox Series X, but it's just in the console. And the Xbox Series X memory card, I think, is like $200. That could be just Canadian, I'm not certain. But I feel like that's a good chunk of the cost is this upgrade in hard drive, because 2 terabytes is huge to have. I remember when I first got the Xbox Series X, this was back when, Call of Duty was still having its goddamn dumbass download stuff, so the game would end up taking up like 300 gigabytes rather than being able to pick and choose. So it would take up a lot of space, so you'd have to do a lot of, kind of deciding what games you want to have and what ones you'd be okay with deleting to make room for new ones, stuff like that. And definitely with 2 terabytes, it would take a lot to get to that point. I'm sure people still will, because people have huge game libraries at this point. But I think that is the secret biggest upgrade, which isn't the best thing, is to be like, hey, we have it's a big hard drive. Yes, there is other options. And I think I mean, there's other upgrades is what I meant. And yes, I think this is very early on, like, seeing how games and whatnot are going to utilize the Pro settings and, like, the technology behind this, everything like that. I think this is going to really come through near the end of the PlayStation 5 cycle, how new games are going to use this to, look better or get to 60 frames while looking better and whatnot like that. And I think a big thing for that is a game like Final Fantasy VII Remake Rebirth was like the big one where it didn't look good playing on performance mode, and on the PlayStation 5 Pro it looks very crisp playing at 60 frames. So there is definitely upgrades. It's just whether you think it's worth the price. And to me, I've never had a mid-level Pro console. I don't think I ever will. It doesn't seem worth it to me. I'll be okay with looking at a little bit of, not this super crisp look, but get 60 frames. Like, I think I'll always be on that side of the equation. Now, talking about the future, because, enthusiasts talk about the price is so high and whatnot. This is only for, like, this small niche kind of thing, hardcore PlayStation 5 players. I think that argument gets to a point where it's kind of scary in a way of what does this really entail for the future of PlayStation and just gaming as a whole? Because I'm sure we're not that far off from what a PlayStation 6 is going to look like. We're not that many years off from that being revealed and released, stuff like that. And I think it would be a little naive to think that the PlayStation 6 won't be more expensive than a PlayStation 5 Pro. And if that's the case, for me in Canada, that would be over $1,000. You know, like I just say $1,100 would be my guess. That's insane for a console. Like that is just silly in my head to think that a console, PlayStation console, would be the price of like borderline a mid-level PC on sale. You know, consoles always have been the easy plug and play kind of situation. The more hardcore stuff is if you get a PC and then you can, tinker with it. My dog barking just scared the shit out of me. But I think it really causes an issue for the future of like, do I think the PlayStation 6 is going to have this level of upgrades that's going to make it worth that much price? And then we're already having the kind of conversation and issue of the PlayStation 5 Pro seems overpriced, but it's, just an enthusiast thing. What's going to be the conversation if a PlayStation 6 comes out that's $1,100? Because then you can't really say, it's just for enthusiasts. It's like a next generation of console game. They do want the people to carry over. They want to bring more people in. And I think that's where it gets kind of an issue. Because then, if the PlayStation 6 is cheaper, then what was the point of a PlayStation 5 Pro ever? It's just, I think, have put themselves in a very tight spot. And I'm curious to know what's going to come of this. I'm not a big fan of PlayStation 5 Pro. The price is definitely fucking crazy for the fact of you don't get a hard drive. You don't get a disk drive. How? Oh my god, it literally gives me a headache trying to think of why they didn't do that. You are selling a Pro. It should have everything. It should be capable of playing every single game possible on a PlayStation 5. That includes a physical game. The fact that it's like, it can, but you have to pay even more for it is asinine. Because at that point, if you're getting the disc drive, for me, that's bumping up the price to almost $1,100 already. So what the fuck's going to happen at a PlayStation 6? That's just my rant about that. It's silly. I'm worried about what a PlayStation 6 is going to look like, or the price, I guess, is going to look like. So, who knows? We're not there yet. We just have a PlayStation 5 Pro, which definitely is slightly better than a PlayStation 5. And if you are a super hardcore PlayStation 5 gamer and you have unlimited money, I guess, at this fucking point, it seems like, run wild, because you'll probably have a good time, playing these games to look better at 60 frames. But be sure to leave your thoughts on the PlayStation 5 Pro in the comments section. What you think is going to happen with the PlayStation 6. Be sure to leave a like if you enjoy. Consider subscribing. It helps the channel a bunch. I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.